first council meeting for 2023. And before we get started tonight, I've got a prepared statement here that I would like to read. Edenton and Chowan County has lost two wonderful people, both business owners and both people who love Edenton and Chowan County. One was a close friend and a business colleague of mine. He was very giving to this community and involved in almost every organization in the community, one way or the other. He started a de novo bank at the worst possible time when the economy tanked in 2007, but struggled through it and made it a great success. And that, my friends, is who Eric Bergevin was. And after we do the Pledge of Allegiance, Councilor Coleman is going to give the invocation. And before he does that, I would like for us to take a moment of silence after the pledge. So at this time, we will stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if we could just take a moment of silence.
O God of time, who promises that the former things will pass away, that all things will be made new. We come to you in prayer at the beginning of this new year. At these times of political mistrust and confusion and even anger, open our hearts to your loving guidance. Grant us a new vision that will guide us in bringing people together rather than creating further divisions. Grant us a new resolve that will give us strength to overcome the limitations of our prejudices and our short-sightedness. Grant us a new understanding of what it means to sacrifice for the good of the whole, that our town and all its citizens may feel valued and respected. Tonight we join with others to mourn the tragic loss of two members of our community, Eric Bergevin and Christian Focha. Any loss is a loss for the whole. We pray for their families at this difficult time and ask for your healing presence in their lives. You're with us in spirit, but as a council and as a community, we may remain comforted by the awareness of your loving guidance. Help us to enter the new year reverently, openly, and patiently, remembering always that thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, the next is the approval of the minutes of the special meeting on December the 6th, 2022, and our regular meeting on December the 13th.
Make a motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any?
One change on the minutes of the special meeting. I think the second speaker was the spelling of the last name is Chirac, I think C-H-A-R-A-K, Blaine Chirac.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, and the next one is the presentation from the Edenton Women's Club, Carlette Pruden and Mary Irvin. I don't know which one is first. Okay.
Good evening. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the council on the Boat USA Reel In and Recycle Fishing Line Program. I'm here representing the Edenton Women's Club. The Women's Club would like to make Edenton's waterways healthier and safer for boaters and wildlife. Fishing line is not biodegradable. It can remain in the marine environment for over 600 years. Fishing line, regardless of the type, can cause serious damage when disposed of inappropriately. It can harm boats, kill wildlife, and foul up boat propellers. Since 2007, Boat US has enabled anglers to properly dispose of more than 20,000 miles plus of fishing line. Edenton Women's Club would like to protect our boat ramps and fishing areas by placing recycling bins. Boat US provides instructions for building these bins and makes available labels and signage.
At Boat US Foundation, we are committed to protecting our country's waterways for future generations to enjoy. The Reel In and Recycle program has been a key part of those efforts since 2007, when grants from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, as well as NOAA's Marine Debris Program, kick-started this vision for widespread fishing line recycling. Since then, we've worked with industry partners to make it easier for anglers to recycle old fishing line. In its first 15 years, our Reel In and Recycle program has recycled more than 20,000 miles of fishing line. Boat US Foundation staff and volunteers have personally built more than 2,000 recycling bins for recreational fishing gear. We've also provided the guidance and discounted materials needed to enable fishing enthusiasts to create more than 13,000 additional bins. To get these kinds of results, we depend on volunteers like you who are passionate about fishing and taking care of our waterways. Getting involved with the Reel In and Recycle program has never been easier. You can visit the Boat US Foundation website to find all of the resources you need to bring the program to your favorite fishing spot. You'll find a step-by-step guide to help build your own fishing line recycling bin. You can also visit our store to find the decals and signs you'll need to complete your recycling bin. With your help, we can continue expanding the Reel In and Recycle program to reach more of our country's waterways. Together, we can ensure that future generations are able to enjoy our favorite fishing spots by making fishing line recycling the new normal. Building and monitoring a fishing line recycling bin is one of the best things you can do to protect your favorite fishing spot. Follow this video on how to build a bin today. The first step in building your own fishing line recycling bin is to gather all of the materials you'll need to get the job done. To complete this project, you will need a 2-foot section of 4-inch or 6-inch PVC pipe, 1 PVC elbow, 1 PVC female threaded adapter, 1 PVC threaded power drill, adhesive, decals and signs. You should be able to purchase most of these items from a local hardware or plumbing supply store. However, you may need to order the sections of 6-inch PVC pipe, as some hardware stores won't carry PVC at this diameter. Be sure to visit our online store to purchase the decals and signs needed to complete your fishing line recycling bin. You can receive your first 5 decals for free. Once you've gathered all of the necessary supplies, you're ready to get started. Start with a 2-foot section of pipe or cut pipe sections to 2 feet. Drill a hole into the threaded cap. This can be done using a hand drill or a drill press. Attach the threaded adapter to the PVC pipe. Use a thin bead of adhesive to do this. Then tap the pipe on the ground or another hard surface to ensure a snug fit. Fit the elbow on the pipe by using adhesive that's been placed onto a brush. Once again, tap the elbow on a hard surface to ensure a snug fit. Screw the threaded cap onto the adapter. You can use your hands to do this. Apply the decals to the bin. You are now ready to install the bin and signage. Once you've installed your bin, be sure to list your bin on our map using our online form.
When a bin is full, it's emptied and the fishing line is cleaned of any hooks, debris, and vegetation. The line is then mailed to Berkeley Recycling Center in Spirit Lake, Iowa. They recycle it into soft plastic beads to be used for future manufacturing. The Women's Club would assume cost for the building and installation of the bins. We would also maintain, but we hope at some point in the future to partner with a fishing or boating organization that would collaborate with us. We believe the three best sites in town are the park by the Hayes Bridge, the waterfront near the Barker House, and the boat ramp that's adjacent to Old Colony Smokehouse. I believe that two of these are town properties and one is, I think, a county property. To proceed with the project, we need your permission to place bins on town property and hope the county would follow suit with that. That's the conclusion. I'm open for questions or comments. If anyone has any.
I think the one at Old Colony is privately owned. I think Marshall Wilford owns that.
Okay.
But I'm sure he would be delighted to have one there. I can't think of any reason why not. I think it's a great idea.
Do you need a motion?
I do.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I'd just like to chime in one thing, and so, one of the things that, Servant and I have spoken about, Public Works will help with the placement of these and try to make sure that they're in correct locations and fitting, the aesthetics of what's there, so we will be glad if council approves, we'll be glad to help with that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Any
Thank you
other
for that
questions?
call for this. I think it's a great
One
idea.
do you have someone who's will construct the hold this for you?
We're going to husbands and friends. Help us construct.
Well, good, I'd like to watch.
It looks like a fairly simple process.
It does.
And then we're gonna see if we can get, some donated scrap ends of some of the PVC, the 2-foot sections. If not, we know where to buy them.
Mike could talk to some of the plumbers around town, because they might have odd pieces left over that they discard or
And
something.
that's what we thought we would go that route first and then see what else we need to purchase.
Yeah, talk to Nixon's, I know that they have some.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any more questions or comments, questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right,
Thank you
so
very much. I think it's a great idea.
I think it'll be a real bonus for our community.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Carlette Pruden, and I live at 351 Soundside Road. I'm a member of the Edenton Women's Club and chairperson of the 2023 pilgrimage. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you regarding the EWC as well as the pilgrimage. The General Federation of the Women's Club was founded in 1890 during the Progressive Movement. Their motto being community improvement by enhancing the lives of others through volunteer services. A few of the major achievements that they did at that time was establishing a large number of public libraries, assisting with the passage of the child labor laws, and helping to establish the National Park Services that we all enjoy. They partnership with the American Cancer Society and aided in proper labeling all the medications and foods that we enjoy at this time. Involved in many other organizations for the betterment of community. The local women's club was formed in 1947, and the motto that we strive for is service above self. The club has been instrumental in numerous projects throughout the years. We are 30 members strong, donating our time, which this past year we donated almost 17,000 hours, with our knowledge as well as the monies. We support 5 areas in our community service. One of them is the arts and culture, which includes the Boys and Girls Club. We also have an annual art festival for the schools that they compete on a state level. Education, libraries, we offer 2 scholarships. We tutor at the Boys and Girls Club, and we volunteer at the library. Environment, we're working on is one of the things that Mary just went over with you. The health and wellness, we're involved with the March of Dimes, the Special Olympics, the domestic violence, and other worldwide clubs that aid in vaccinations throughout the world. We also support other numerous organizations and foundations that are part of our fundraisers, and just this past year with the fundraisers that we were involved in, we raised almost $6,000. We own the copyright to 4 books that we sell throughout the community. Most of you are familiar with these, one of them being the archaeological portrait that we call the Butcher book, Beyond the River and the Sound, the Walking Tour, and the Elizabeth Van Moore guidebook. We also have a special blend of tea. The first pilgrimage event was organized in 1949 with the help of English Fletcher. And since then, the EWC pilgrimage has raised over $1 million that we have contributed and distributed among various churches, public buildings, and for historical education. We are part of a 501(c) nonprofit organization. The pilgrimage is successful and made possible by the gracious homeowners and sponsors aiding the EWC with the goal of historical preservation and education of our town and community. This pilgrim also supports our local tourism. This is why I'm standing before you asking for your support to provide the use of the trolley and town van during the April 14th and 15th, 2023 pilgrimage of this year. Are there any questions? Thank you for allowing me to speak for you and your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pruden. You ladies do a wonderful job, and you certainly do a great job with the pilgrimage every year and raise quite a sum of money, and we certainly appreciate that. You heard the lady's request.
No, and Mayor, there's no action that we need to take on that. We'll be glad to work out all the logistics of that. Part of this presentation tonight was to show the public our partnership with the Edenton Foreman Club to help them make this event successful. And we'll be glad to work out all the logistics on the trolley and the passenger van.
And thank you, ladies, for bringing that to us this morning. All right, we'll go into our new business, and the first one is a budget amendment for security system update. And Corey, I'll let you take that.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item, there are some things Tammy and I have been working on. As you can see with some of the visual updates that are near completion. A part of this project for Town Hall and for the council chambers itself is an upgrade to the security system at both locations. The budget amendment that is presented tonight will be for an additional 3 outdoor cameras at the corner of the building for Town Hall, as well as 2 additional cameras up on the 2nd floor. This would also allow us to have 4 cameras here for the council chambers, as well as some integration for the smoke detector system that is a part of this security and visual update that we've been doing here. This will allow us to integrate both systems. Virginia's here with us tonight. She has added a note here that we are over our mid-year target for sales tax revenue by 13.5%, that there are sufficient funds to afford this type of improvement for the site. And so I would like to recommend that council consider approving the budget amendment for these improvements as presented.
Any questions of Corey?
One question, so we're doing well on tax income. Any reason that you see that's allowed that, or is that just a general across the board? improving our finances.
Virginia can probably give a little better response to this, but most of the sales tax increases that we've saw over the last year and a half, I would say would contribute mainly from some of the online sales. There's a sales tax there that we've seen an increase from for any type of online ordering that's included. Now, Gina, is there anything else that helps contribute to local sales tax other than the online orders that we've discussed?
I think the tourism part plays a big role in that as well. Compared to the previous 2 years or so, we've probably generated an extra, I'm gonna say $50,000 to $75,000 a month in sales tax collections. So,
Virginia, is it seasonal? Do we see an uptick, for example, in the spring? I'm assuming except for the Christmas tour that our tourism numbers are higher like in the spring than in the dead of winter. So can we expect normally based on trends in the
it does
past?
play a difference in what other organizations offer, you know, like the Christmas tour, the pilgrimage coming up. So around those type of events, it does increase.
If approved, how long, what's the timeline for getting this done?
Hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the budget amendment for the security system. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, the second was another budget amendment for the wastewater collection system, I&I project phase 2.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So the next budget amendment is just some clerical updates. If you remember, when we originally were approved for the second phase of the I&I project for our wastewater collection system, that was originally funded from a DEQ loan. If you remember back in August, we received award letters from the division stating that that loan had been converted to VUR, Vulnerable Utility Reserves, which is a portion of the American Rescue Plan funding. So the budget amendment that is shown here is strictly an update of the revenue stream to change the original revenue number from 1.8 million, which was the loan portion, to the 2.3 million, which is the actual grant portion. And so this is something that Virginia and I have worked through, and as we get closer to that project going out to bid, we wanted to go ahead and make sure that our financial statements were in line with what the grant award was versus what it was a year and a half ago or more when the project was funded through the loan. So this is simply to allow us to change that revenue from 1.8 to 2.3 million based on the funding source.
And on the liability side, is it a percentage of it still a loan and percentage of it still a grant, or is it 100%
No, sir,
grant?
this was one of the 100% grant funded projects that we converted back in the spring.
That's awesome.
We like grants. That would save us the interest for, on that long?
For 20 years, 20-year interest loan, I think, was the note originally. It might have been 15.
Not only the interest, but the interest in the principal, interest and principal.
Yeah. So this would allow for us to correct the revenue piece, just because it's coming from a different funding source from the state.
Super. Any other questions or comments?
I move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion and a
It's a
second.
no-brainer.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the next is a travel request for Main Street Conference. Corey, you want to take that?
Yes, sir. The last item here, on March 27th through 29th of 2023, the Main Street Now Conference will be held in Boston, Massachusetts. The early registration period is finally opened up, and this will run through February 5th. This is at a reduced rate for existing members, of which we are. We've had very little local attendance to the regional or national conferences over the last 2 years because of COVID. Most of those travel restrictions have been lifted for most municipalities. And so we had this discussion earlier this morning in another organization where we've already got 2 folks that are going from that organization. And so what we would like to do is really have a strong presence there, and what we're requesting is that we send 3 individuals, myself, Mayor Stallings, and Councilman High, to this conference in Boston. That way we can have a strong turnout there for the event. Sambo, is there anything I'm missing from the conference
Yeah,
itself?
the great thing about the conference is they have breakout sessions. I've been before, and they have breakout sessions on about every topic you can have. You know, downtown hotels. You know, how to stop doing ABC. How to start doing whatever. I mean, that, you know, how to operate a downtown hardware store in the, you know, this day and time. How to, you know, what components can the town do to help, you know, keep business downtown? I mean, what can the town do to make things better? I mean, there are literally hundreds of different breakout sessions, so everybody can go to different things and then bring back what they learned. I mean, it's a great organization. It's a really great chance for us to go and learn, and we also have a chance to network while we're there.
Well, Ed McMahon,
Yes, he'll be there. Yes.
If you remember back in mid-November, the chairperson for that board, Ed McMahon, was here working with the town as well as 5 of the nonprofit organizations here to help develop some long-term plans around the downtown and historic district. And we feel like this would be a good follow-up for that, knowing that we have some set items to particularly go after, and to really, you know, move to the top of the list. And I think that this will allow us to add some tools to our toolboxes around the knowledge of how to make those things happen. And so, if council approves, I would request that the 3 of us be in attendance.
And Corey, I think it's important to note when Mr. McMahon was here back in November, some of his ideas for bettering the downtown area extended into other areas of the town and affected other areas of the town. And I was pleased to hear that he had some ideas about that also.
It did. The visit did approach multiple locations within town as well as abroad within the ETJ and even into the county.
Mayor, your motion? Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And that completes our new business agenda. And the next is items considered timely and important.
Yeah.
Does any of you up here have anything that you need to bring to your fellow councilmen?
Well, I've got a couple of quick questions for you. I'm looking at the Public Works Department. It suggested a grant had been prepared for the $40,000 to purchase a trailer.
Yes.
Is that the trailer that's going to allow to reinstitute curbside recycling?
Yes, and we actually have a second meeting with a private organization on the 17th of January to talk about potentially leveraging that grant with theirs to assist the town in actively restarting that curbside recycling program. That application for the state is due in February, of which it is completed, and myself and the rest of the administrative staff are reviewing that now before we do the final submission.
Okay. The other question was, I guess, there was a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the wetlands area, North Granville and Virginia and Hicks. Is anything, is that, are repairs being planned for that area? Any new developments there?
So, to give you a little bit of background on that, as far as the meetings with the Army Corps, those are something, formerly as Public Works Director, that I would work for. Those visits are every 2 years. They are a type of mutual agreement between both parties, where they help identify, areas of improvement. And then over the next 2 years, they allow the local municipality to make said improvements from their report. As when we talk about the constructed wetlands as a whole, this past year, Public Works had identified improvements at that site that were needed. At that time, we reached out and already had started getting some quotes to make some of the repairs to the boardwalks and to the piers that cross over some of the areas there. We've got those. We wanted to wait until the lumber market started to settle back down for repairing those 2 sections. We've already got quotes now with the scope of work. We're going to reissue those and see if we can't get revised bids now that the lumber market has started to settle and have a more realistic idea of what the true repair costs will be now that those supplies aren't so inflated. But we had started that process back in the summer, and we've got all the quotes. We just need to reach back out to those contractors and see if anything has changed on the material side.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Are we still on target to have Broad Street paved at the spring of the year? State still gonna do that?
Yes, sir. And so I spoke with NCDOT yesterday afternoon. I spoke with the division engineer on that. We still are on target. DOT will be bringing some ideas on some of the traffic calming and some of the parking improvements that we've had some discussions on. They're going to provide those us some updates over the next 30 days of some different renderings of options to help with the painting and the striping. That will be from the intersection of Queen and North Broad all the way through the US 17 non-business intersection out of the bypass, so past Colony Tire on out into the county, so Shannon House Road, so the paving will be for that entire length. But they do want to bring us some options on some of the concerns we've brought up, particularly with the speed and with some of the parking needs that.
Are they looking at a bike path for a certain portion of it?
We had some discussion there. Those will be all 3 items. The traffic calming for speed, the parking, as well as the bike head piece will be included in the striping revisions that they bring forward to us. We would likely have DOT in for a presentation showing the options for council to decide upon, probably in February or March.
Okay.
And that's fine, because they still are on target for paving Broad Street this spring. And so if you've noticed, they have started making some utility repairs around some of the stormwater junction boxes that are out there. There's a few line replacements that they've got to work on, and then they'll have crews in. Most recent update, nothing has changed contractually, and it should be a spring paved.
How about Gravel Street? Isn't that a DOT?
There is a section that's DOT, and then there's a second half that's town-owned. There are some underground issues we'd like to address first. We've had a lot of conversations around that, and I think there's some improvements we need to make similar to what we did on Queen Street when DOT paved the section of West Queen out to the bypass. There's some sewer improvements that we need to make through there, really from West Freemason, 100 block of West Freemason south to, I would say, at least King Street. There's some places through there that we need to make some improvements first.
Well, I think it's very, very prudent that we make those repairs on water and sewer as well, so we won't have to cut them. You know, it's a shame in the world to pave it and then go right back in 30, 60 days and make a cut through there, so yeah.
Corey, I know you identified 6 other streets to be resurfaced too. Will that happen around the same time the state's doing Broad Street? Or will that be after or before?
More than likely will be after. We work with a different contractor that we have recently developed some relationships with to do some of the local things. I think some of the next conversations the council will have is just like with the improvements for the constructed wetlands, the fuel index for the paving costs. When we originally got these quotes in the summer of this year for the remaining town streets that were there, we wanted to try to pause to see if we could get some of that asphalt cost back down. If you know, although a small percent, fuel prices have went down some compared to where they were this time last year. That's a direct correlation to asphalt price. That's one of the things why we paused on that. We want to get the quotes updated so we can get a more accurate and a more reasonable price for paving than what we were provided.
Should have got a quote before Christmas.
And Corey, I ask this every time, but that will include those 2 streets in
Yes.
the Cotton Mill,
Yes.
because they are,
Yes.
I keep promising people they're gonna get paved, and
Yes.
so when do you think that's gonna happen?
We've already gotten quotes on all the different locations, including certain parking lots in town. We've tried to do at least a parking lot each time in addition to these streets. As the mayor had brought up about the paving, we want to make these utility repairs that are needed in Q1 here and get those underground things fixed. And the goal is to start paving sometime after March.
Is anything, does the Cotton Mill need anything underneath the ground?
No.
Okay,
No.
because they put all that new stuff in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Corey, if you have any remaining money for roads, that 100 block of East Queen is horrible.
That
I have
was
a lot of
one.
complaints about it.
That was one of the streets that was removed
Yeah.
from the last phase, from some of the upsets that we ran into from the subsurface repairs that were needed before we finished that project. That was requoted for that section. If you remember, we paid the 400 block of West Queen during the last round of water and sewer improvements.
Corey, and I certainly don't want to get crossways with them until they pave Broad Street, but at some point in time, I would like DOT to come and explain to us the process of removing litter from exit and entrance ramps here to town, and how they propose to do a better job, because I understand it's their duty to do so,
Okay,
and that's just a persistent problem.
okay.
And if it's their duty, I would like for them to live up to their duty. But like I said, I'd rather get Broad Street paved before we get into that, but I would like to hear from them. And I know a lot of citizens would like to hear from
And
them.
at the same conversation, when they come, if they could talk to us about how to keep trucks from turning left, and coming down here and getting stuck. I mean, we were in the car, I mean, it happens all the time. There's gotta be something we can post that says, you know, you can't, don't turn left or something. There's gotta be some way to keep those trucks from coming down here.
And one thing, word of mouth is by far the most effective
People screaming out and
acknowledgement of fixing things. One of the things we have tasked PD with is to make sure there's a zero tolerance on ticketing for making that. It's very clearly marked. The disruption of that really is a safety concern.
Yeah.
And so PD is actively on that.
It's sort of become an event, we won't get stuck.
And Hack, to your point, I don't know how many of you have rode out to West Queen.
Rode by there today.
Oh, yeah.
That is
That's why I
pitiful,
bring it up.
I'm telling you, that is pitiful.
Especially the ramp going toward the bridge.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard.
I mean, it's, I can't fathom anyone throwing that much
Since you
trash.
brought that up, I need to tell you, we had a Lions Club meeting last night. And the Lions Club, Edenton Lions Club is gonna tackle that particular project sometime this month, some Saturday this month. Because we want it done too.
I just can't fathom anyone throwing that kind of trash.
It's not taking, you're not taking pride in your community.
Yeah.
And to add one thing here to that, so we have had a strong presence, here in the public, taking it upon themselves to go out there and, do a lot of cleaning. I can think of 2 individuals within the last 60 days that have been out there, if not, one time, at least multiple times. One of the things that we share, oftentimes I get calls about this. There's a lot of confusion around the town, having some responsibility for that out there. One of the things that we've shared when folks are out there is, if there's any mail or anything like that, the last individual, which I spoke with last week, I actually sent a deputy out, and had her meet with one of the deputies because mail was found, and they did visit that residence where that trash was at. So if some particular person doesn't see a need to use the convenience center, we'll be glad to be a resource to help with the public is there to do cleanup, to try to identify where this trash may be coming from.
Be nice if we could put one of those plate readers out there and get the plate up. That would be good. All right, does anyone else have anything up here that they want?
So since our last meeting, I thought I'd bring this up. Hayes is closed. It is, 196 acres that is now in the public domain. It is leased to the Elizabeth Van Moore Foundation for 50 years, and we're in the process, I chair that, we're in the process of trying to decide exactly how best to use it. I mean, we've got the physical resources, we've also got the environmental resources for walking, running. I mean, it's unlimited what we can do over there. The one thing we can't do, that I get a call every day, is to build something else over there. That's prohibited. We can't, we're not allowed to go build other houses or structures and stuff like that. I mean, the whole point is it stays open. And by this purchase, it basically preserves the view shed of, the eastern view shed of Edenton, and also the view shed of Pembroke Creek, which is really vastly untouched. And so they're gonna, in the near future, there are gonna be just tons of ways that the people of Edenton can enjoy, basically a central park right across the bridge. And I've taken Corey and I've taken Hack out for a ride, and I'm happy to take, I want to get everybody's input. So, any ideas, send them to me, and then I want to come pick you up and take you over there riding around. to
Will
look
the
at.
tenant houses eventually be open for?
So that's, I mean, all of that, some are occupied, I mean, all that's in planning. And we're doing that in consultation with the Department of Cultural Resources. So, it's gonna take a while to get those things fixed up, because I mean, they're restored, they're in pretty bad shape.
Samuel, can you speak as to approximately when, like, the public might be able to start enjoying, at
I
least
mean, I
part of that?
think you can walk over there now, you can, walk down the railroad track, I mean, all of that's, open for walking now. And that's, hopefully the beaches are gonna be open, we're hoping by the spring. I mean, our goal is to.
For public swimming?
Yeah, to have swimming there. We've got a lot of, hoops to jump through, insurance and all those kinds of things. But, hopefully it's gonna be open from dawn to dusk, and, will be a place that the people of this town can enjoy, the county. I mean, that's the goal, is that it's not it's gonna be for tourists, but it's also gonna be for us. And the main focus is, how that place can enhance the lives of the people that live in Chowan County. And
Is anyone living in the main house?
so the main house is occupied, the Woods are living there until they're doing some renovations on another structure, so they're in there right now. So that part's off limits for for right now, but, we're working on, there're gonna be some public sort of visioning sessions so people can have input, and, then, you never know where a great idea comes from. So, I mean, if anybody's got one, let me know, because we're really interested in trying to collect those so we can do the best we can with the project.
Anyone else have anything up here?
I do want to just chime in, just a couple of things. So, two things that I would like to address I did want to provide the general public with an update on the Hotel Hinton, as well as some work that we have recently done with the folks from Saga. I know that recently we've had quite a presence on social media, and I thought that it would be worthwhile to share the information. So if you remember back in October, council did not approve the sale of the parcel behind the hotel site, the additional space they had requested. And I wanted to share, since that time, during the months of November, myself as well as additional administrative staff, as well as some of the council members, we've had 2 different meetings with the representatives from Saga. One during the month of November, and then one with the CEO actually in December, with some of the group that's a part of that project. They are very aware of the town's intent to proceed forward with a more aggressive stance on that project. Just to provide some update there, the social media concerns and comments were shared with the CEO to really not just sing along, to show that the public is really concerned about what's going on there. We also reached out to them immediately when we caught wind of any murmurs within the community, and shared with them the images of some of the concerns of what was there. They've already reached out and actually had the property secured by one of the local contractors here. And as a follow-up, we have a 3rd meeting with Saga this month in January to actually walk the property, walk the exterior of the property, and also walk some of the utility repairs that would need to be made in and around that structure to make it more secure. So although it seems like things have been rather stale actually on the physical property, some of the work that we've done since October, I think, surpasses the entire previous year. We did receive some pleasant updates from the group as far as challenges and things that they are facing and things that we're trying to help them navigate with. But I do think that the group very much realizes that this property is highly visible and is one of the projects that Edenton really needs to see come to some type of improved status. If we think about the conversations we had with Saga over a year ago, the landscape for Edenton has very much changed since the last meeting that we had back in 21. At that time, there was no knowledge of Hayes, there was no knowledge of the ferry system, there was no knowledge of the restaurant, and we've shared that sentiment with their management, that they are very much falling behind. And so we're optimistic about the meeting that we have in January slated with them, and I did want to allow the general public to hear that directly from myself, because I've been a host and a part of each of those 2 and soon to be 3 meetings. The second thing I'd like to provide an update is, and we'll do a formal announcement like we typically would for any open meeting, but I did want to share that we will be doing the planning and long-term vision meeting on the 16th. That will be upstairs at Town Hall. Though that meeting will follow the same open meeting laws as a normal council meeting. That will be open to the general public. That's an all-day work session for all of council. That will be where we work on the vision statement, as well as some of these hot topic projects, i.e. like the Hotel Hinton, that we will have some discussion on, and others that are
ARP
major.
projects.
Yeah, that are and ARP projects, but I did want to go ahead and make that aware before I send out an announcement on Friday. So those are 2 things I wanted to share with council as well as the general public. I thought both were needed. Yes, sir.
Yes, Corey, going back to the Hotel Hinton, you mentioned some utility repairs that are going to be necessary. What is the time frame on those repairs as best you can give us?
Well, we would like to aid in identifying those when we meet in January, and make sure those are resolved in a timely manner they did respond with some improvements that they would like to see, to potentially add additional lighting and some security, to that. There's some questions we have to work out for, utility services, but the conversation will be for utility repairs on their end, as well as utility repairs that are needed on the town side to
And I can
provide
tell
power.
you that when we met with them this last time, that Corey told them, in no uncertain terms, a 3-year-old could have understood it, if you follow my drift, that, those utility cuts and all need to be done before we pave that parking lot. Because after we pave that parking lot, it's not gonna be cut.
And that leads me to my next question. You had mentioned that part of these repairs are town repairs and part of these repairs, utility repairs, are their repairs. And so they're gonna have to put some substantial money
Yes,
into this, hopefully here in the next month or so, to
yes.
get those repairs done.
Yes, and to compartmentalize those, so when I talk about their repairs, I know some of the images that were shared, some of the concerns that were shared are things that are past that meter base, that are things that are really on the customer or the resident or the owner's side of the electrical system. And then when I talk about some of the repairs and improvements that we need to make on the towns, we're talking more on the electric utility grid itself. So we'll actually walk down some of the electrical repairs that the town needs to make with their help for that project. So it's twofold, some for some of the open panels and some of the electrical boxes that are exposed on the exterior of the building that are not live, that are of no safety concern, but the aesthetics of what's there is not,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, and that I think answers my next question. So a large number of these utility repairs are not gonna be seen by the naked eye, but some of them will serve to enhance the appearance of it.
Yes,
And I think most importantly, they're gonna have to start putting some money into it.
yes.
And I can assure you, that this project has not been ignored. We've been meeting with them a couple times every month. And as I said, and Corey, you might want to explain what your statement earlier that we denied selling them that property behind it. And the reason for it was that we told them, until you show us some improvement, what you're planning to do and all, we're not gonna deed that property over to you until you show us that you're serious and that you're gonna move forward with the project.
In the terms of the sale were not favorable to the town or the project. There were some conditions and items that the town, needed to consider and have as part of the process for the purchase. And at that time, those concerns had not been addressed, but they have been shared, with the folks, from Saga. And if and when council considers, how to proceed with that property, I think that, the conditions will have been fully met in order for town to vote on that sale.
The last meeting we had with Summit, it was explained to him pretty strongly what his next moves need to be made, and if not, we were gonna make some moves. But anyway,
And I think we've asked also really to give us every single possible thing that we can do. We did that in, I can't remember, November. Every single thing we can do under our statutes to help remedy the situation. I mean, some things you can't do. I mean, we can only do things we can do, but Big Hood's working on a list of everything that we can possibly do that is doable to push it.
And also another thing that I think is important is up until this point in time, up until the last couple of months, we've been dealing with representatives of the company. And now we've gotten enough attention where we're dealing with the owner and CEO of the company,
That's correct.
as opposed to representatives.
Yes.
My question
We
would
came
be,
back from what
he's
we
saying-
sold you to,
We didn't sell it though.
we didn't sell it,
The county did.
oh, the county.
are you saying that, if Saga can't tell us specifically when they're gonna do it and how they're gonna do it. There's a potential or possibility of the town taking it back, or seeking to take it
The
back.
town never had it, it was the county.
It's not a town asset.
And we can only take it back if there's a way to take it back. I mean, you know, if there's a law that says the town can condemn it for economic development, I mean, you know, that's the question to Hood.
And we've even asked them for a figure. We've had some outside people that were interested in it, and we've asked them for a figure that we could possibly sell it to someone else. And we had a couple people that showed some interest in it.
That's correct.
Are they still interested?
Well, we would like to get a formal, reasonable selling price from Saga for the property.
And we haven't got that yet. Anything else? Okay, at this time then we'll open it up for public comment. And remember that it's limited to 3 minutes per person, and the first person on the list is Kip Shaw.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council, and I'm really happy to hear what was just discussed about the hotel. I live across from the hotel at 112 East King, so been there for several years and seen the hotel deteriorate. And there are so many things that need to be addressed about the hotel, and speaking to Saga is obviously one of them. But my immediate concern is that the weekend before last, there was breaking and entering at the hotel, and it was rather violent. The cellar door was ripped open. One of the front windows was smashed from the inside, spreading glass all over the sidewalk. The door above the front door, the balcony door was ripped open. So I'm not a legal expert, but to me that sounds like breaking and entering, which means it's a crime scene. We therefore need to proceed as, I think, as it being a crime scene, and that the public welfare has to be considered. We don't know what's going on in that building. There are people that are coming and going. Now, supposedly it's secure now, but who knows? There's a lot of rooms in that hotel. And I propose, and maybe it's already been done, but which would reassure me, but I really do think that the building needs to be swept is the term, I guess, to go room by room by
30
room
seconds, Mr. Shaw.
to see what's going on in there. We don't know if they're homeless living in there. We don't know if there's a meth lab. We don't know anything. And I contacted the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation about this, and they told me that they couldn't do anything without being notified by the local police authorities. And I for one, would really stress that I think it should be seen as a crime scene, and that if necessary, we do reach out to the State Bureau of Investigation, and that building is swept and every room is looked at to see if anyone's living in it, or if there's any illicit activity going on. We know that there are people that have gone in there, and God forbid, if someone has an overdose, or if someone is raped. I mean, sure, we want that building to look nice, but these concerns of mine, I think, are much more serious. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And next is John Grant.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to echo a lot of the sentiments that Mr. Shaw has brought up, and I was hoping that Chief King was gonna be here tonight to give his side of it. We heard the town side in regards to communication saga, but I'd like to hear the law enforcement side as well as what's being done in regards to that building. I know in 2020, a gentleman was robbed on the street there on King Street, and we were given some information that maybe some additional security cameras and so forth would be put up. I haven't seen that any of that's been done. I would hope that a camera would be put in that back parking lot that would show on the back side of the building so that we would have clear view of anyone trying to get into the cellar door or anything of that nature. I would also note that maybe sharing some of this stuff on social media from the town standpoint, which we're taking action about, would help alleviate a lot of the concerns of the community. As you notice, not everybody in the community can make it to the town council meeting, and a lot of people get everything they learn and know from social media. So maybe put out a little something to let us know as a general public what's going on. I know that you've had several meetings with Saga. I'll be honest, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. For them to say that they are having some difficulties, yet they just bought the Weeping Radish Winery and Brewery down in Nag's Head and have taken that over and are gonna renovate that, yet they've made no effort whatsoever to do this hotel here. It's disingenuous on their part. I would also note that as a danger to the health and safety of the community, that building is now beginning to pose under North Carolina General Statute 160D-1129. I think the town can take more stringent action, and I would just hope that you would look into all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And next is Lori Sablo.
Yes, thank you. Does it help people that are watching with Zoom?
Yes.
Talking with,
That'd be great, thank you.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to address some of our concerns. My husband Patrick and I live at 110 East King Street, so we look every morning right out at the Hotel Edenton. We also have a business at 114 and 116 East King Street. And in the 2 years that we have been here in Edenton, we have been very well aware that East King Street was dark when we first arrived. There was no lighting there to speak of. And there was the possibility for a lot of bad things to happen down there. I also overheard anecdotally couples who were visiting, or people who were visiting Edenton, stop at the corner of Broad and King Street, this was back in 2020, 2021, and talk about whether or not they should walk down East King Street. And often the decision was not to, because it just was not well lit and it didn't appear to be a safe place. With the history that we have of just a pristine and beautiful and historic district, it seems a shame to allow, I've heard people say disgrace, and I agree with that, to allow a building to remain vacant for, an endless period of time, which only begs the possibility of having crimes committed in it. The longer that a great big huge hotel with a parking lot behind it sits on an empty or semi-dark street, the greater the possibility that you're gonna have crime get set up. And we have heard that there's tagging going on inside that building, which would be very serious.
I'm sorry, there's what?
Tagging,
Aggie?
tagging, yes, where gangs stake their claim to territory. I have questions. I hope that that's a legitimate use of my time here, but I have questions for you. Has anyone on the council been inside the building recently
I haven't.
and inspected it?
You have, haven't
It's been, it it was in December.
I know he brought a crew down here, back in December, and they toured it that day, but I did not. I don't know if anybody else has been in there or not.
And
Is
that-
the condition worse than the exterior on the interior?
And that'll be part of the review when we meet them in January, is internal and outside, review of that entire property.
Okay.
We're curious to see what both look like.
I know they spent $250,000 putting a roof on it. I know they did that. And,
There were, last time I went, there were no walls.
What?
They'd taken all the walls out.
So
It was
most-
just, it was all studs.
Yeah,
That's
most-
been a year ago.
Corey, they've done a good job of lighting, that, area of the block in front of their business. I don't know if y'all been down there, but at night it looks really good. It's a cheap, quick, more of a Band-Aid solution, but would that allow us to put some of the string lights like she has in front of her business, draped on that balcony or whatever? One, it would look good, but more importantly, it would provide more safety and security there, and it would tie into what they're doing across the street. Because it looks really good.
One of the things that we would need to address, Councilman High, is, some type of encroachment agreement between, the two property owners to attach or fix some type of town-owned property to their building. That'd be something that we can ask, in January, during this meeting that we have here in January, to see if we could have something like that drafted and signed. And then, with the building closer to Broad Street, as far as the alleyway that we're talking about there, if we could identify the property owner there and also ask them the same thing. It's a very similar process to what was done between Southern Bank and the property owner of the, building where Emilio's is, for that alleyway, where the rope lighting was added. So we know how to do that, and I think we can definitely address that with them within a year.
From a safety standpoint, that would be helpful. However, I don't know that you want to put a spotlight on a big ugly broad elephant like that and even point out the fact that it is just a light. It looks like urban light. I think a spotlight on broken windows with, looks like bullet holes through them.
I would want a spotlight. I'm not talking about a spotlight. I agree with you.
I just want to address more illumination in the area.
Yeah.
Not to dress up the building then.
And so just to provide some, information here, public outreach is by far the, most useful tool. So when the community or when folks from that area feels like there's an issue or that there's some type of criminal activity or something that doesn't seem, to be in place, I encourage folks to call, PD or 911 dispatch to have them send an officer over. That is the most useful tool for us to show if any type of criminal activity is happening there. And I would share that with the public. If there's a concern, if there's something there, with you living in that area, please utilize that resource so we can start having documentation of that.
We've called several times and called attention to the fact that the kids were coming in through the side door and then of course immediately.
has that been recently?
It were a series of entries during the summer months with kids going in the side entry. And
It's been
we have
it's
reported
been
all
tightened
that.
up since then, I believe.
Mhm.
I believe that. I can only assure you guys, it's not been put on a back burner. The Edenton Partnership is working very closely with us on this, and we're working just as hard as we can. I mean, seriously. I mean, you may not believe that, but I assure you it's the truth.
Oh, I've already seen responsiveness that was just wonderful on the part, of our council. I really, really appreciate that. I think Saga are the ones that have to have their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's done. I pray that, maybe legally there's some ways that you can really force that, because they don't need any more outs.
Well, we have been very harsh with them in the last 3 months, I can tell you.
And when we met with them, we expressed, the very serious and sincere frustration that we as a council have with them. And we also indicated that the general public was very, very frustrated with the lack of progress. And so, you know, the recent attention that has been drawn to it just backs up our statements to them that the general public is fed up also. And I believe you said you forwarded a lot of the social media posts to them. And that just backed up what we have been telling them, that it's just not our frustration, it's this frustration also.
Well, and I would like to see us get something in writing that says, here's what you can do. Here's when you can condemn for an economic purpose. Here's what we can do based on these violations. Can we do, a 1, 2, 3 with the facts we have, just a good old fashioned legal memo that then guides us to be able to decide exactly what options we have. I think that's the missing piece. I mean, we need to know if we really can, is it possible to condemn the building and take it for a purpose? I mean, is that a possibility? And that's all up to I think we have to ask the town attorney to do that and to come back and give us a report.
I'm aware that I've exceeded my time, but thank you so much, appreciate it.
And thank each of you for bringing that to us. But again, I say, we can assure you that it's not been put on the back burner. It is being pursued at this time. All right, that was the last person we had on there, and at this time, we have to go in a closed session to consult with our town attorney.
One of the first ones to speak, I'm sorry, Mayor, was that somebody raising their hand?
Roger?
Oh, somebody raising their hand back there, I didn't imagine that.
Public comment.
Name's not on the list.
If you want.
Okay, go ahead.
Would you allow another 3-minute comment, please?
I'm sorry?
Another 3-minute comment.
Well, have at it.
Merry Christmas.
Last month I shared with you some observations concerning the sign on Virginia Road close to the Jamon Medical Center about Edenton as the home of champions. Those are just numbers, but that sign doesn't come close to conveying the depth of the realities. To give you one simple example, each of you knew in your high school experience that there was one team, possibly two, that if you beat them that year in football, the season was a success, no matter what else happened. The team that played and won championships consecutively, 1964, 1965, those who graduated in 66 and played as seniors on the 65 team, they did something that no one else in my lifetime or the memory of those who came before me did. In particular, in 4 years, they never lost to Elizabeth City, Yellow Jackets, then before they became Eagles. 2 years were ties, 2 years they won outright. I know of no other reality that's comparable to beating your most evil opponent 4 years in a row, or at least never losing 4 years in a row. That is just a sample of the realities that are embedded in those numbers. And that's why I urged you last time and urge you again tonight. There's got to be a better way to acknowledge the accomplishment of our younger student athletes from past generations. It helps in ways that most of you don't know. When I entered UNC in the fall of 1959, and you played a game with everybody who's new, they said, well, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? Edenton? Long pause. Oh, that's where they played football. because by that time, Bill Billings and his coaches and the community had won several state championships. That was the best advertisement for this community since Penelope Barker refused to drink tea. Okay? You can't pay for that type of thing, but you need to tell that story again and again and again to each generation. I can give you other examples. However, since I know you're so anxious to get to your executive session, I'm gonna give you the benefit of something. And, Mr. Mayor, if you will, allow us to have a pop quiz on this next month?
I don't see that happening.
All right, this is the best pop quiz you ever took. This is what our student athletes have done. It's what I think they will do again. And I think you can go a long way to encourage these realities. And if you would give one to and I have one for high auction, and the money goes to the Edenton Women's Club for the next pilgrimage. How much? $10, $20, $25, $30. Mike Williams for $30. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll write the check. Yes.
I'm Pat Grover, I live in the Cotton Mill Village, and I am also concerned about the Hotel Hinton. This has been going on since 2014. In 2015, they told us that it may open in October of 2016. They had had a company come in and look at it, and they had been given estimates and told that that's what was possible. Then after all of that, in 2017, they finally had a feasibility study done. Now, that should have been done, I would think, before the building was purchased. So since 2017, we have been going on and on and on with this. They have gone to banks, they have tried for market, I can't remember the name, market loans, yeah.
New market credit.
New market credit, that's right. Apparently they didn't get that. So now that we are saying you are being very strict with them and you are giving them information, whatever. I still don't believe that Saga is going to follow through with this building. In my estimation, they may just let that building go until it is no longer able to stand well or to be sturdy enough. They will drop it and then they will build new, because doing that is cheaper than reconstructing. I hope it doesn't happen, but to my mind, that's what would happen. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I wish you good luck with Saga. I don't think that it's gonna happen. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like basically a sentence. I've been thinking about this, and of course I live near the hotel. I'm sorry, I'm Cynthia Harding. I live at 407 Court Street. I can see the hotel from my front porch. I walk past it to get downtown. My son is doing night photography right now. He walks past it at night to do night photography, and the safety concerns are real. Since you all are purchasing security cameras for Town Hall, perhaps you could add 2 more and put them on the Hinton until we get a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Just one comment. I live upstairs at 112, and there's a balcony there that juts out and then goes along the courthouse green. But the part that juts out and is parallel with King Street would be a perfect place for a security camera. And I'm sure that Frederick Ingalls would be willing to have one mounted there on the banister.
All right, at this time, I'll ask the public if you would leave, and we're gonna go into the public. Time to adjourn.